Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Cortright cast, where we talk about everything from science fiction, fantasy, movies, Hollywood, entertainment culture, and pretty much everything in between. I am your host, Alex Cortright, and this is my brother, Jonathan Cortright. And today we are talking about the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer that has just come out. So the trailer just came out last week. The film is coming out March 31st, in end of March. Split release on HBO Max as well as in theaters too, right? So yeah, I think we can just start by going off of first reactions. What was your thoughts on the trailer? Because I know you're going to be a lot more brutal on it than I am.
It's just the type of movie that I don't care for. So it just looks big and dumb and ridiculous to me. But at least they went that way after the first Godzilla movie. Because the Kong movie and then the second Godzilla movie were like, I wouldn't call them good, but they were massively more watchable than the first Godzilla.
I'm someone that can, when it comes to watching movies, I love to critique movies. I love to be harsh on them. And there's a lot you can be harsh about. Not that I love to be harsh on them, but I usually take a critical eye to most films that I watch. However, films like this, and, they're different. I feel like there are different things you can do with different films. And I think that when it comes to action, maybe this is because I'm a dude. I enjoy action flicks just generally, but I can let a lot more pass if I just accept a movie is going to be big, dumb, and ridiculous, and I can still enjoy it. It's not going to make like a top 10 list for me, but I can still look past it. And that is something that I actually can do with these MonsterVerse movies.
Well, I'm fine with the big, dumb, and ridiculous movies, but there's still just because it's big, dumb, and ridiculous doesn't mean that there's no craft to it. Yeah. Like Independence Day is a legitimately good movie and it's big, dumb, and ridiculous. Movies like that can absolutely work. What I see specifically with these Godzilla Kong movies is that they don't have the heart behind it. They don't have the real craft behind it that something like Independence Day has, to make it work past being like, oh cool, we're seeing
to take
Godzilla
it to a classic level
and Kong,
where it's going to actually gain respect.
Right. It's Pacific Rim has a very similar premise to these movies, as in it's a big dumb we're going to watch these giant things fight each other type thing. But Pacific Rim was made by Guillermo del Toro and it was a little better. He didn't, it didn't work.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't like that movie at all.
You didn't like it?
Not at all.
I didn't think it worked great, but there was more to it. It worked a little better than the Kong movie. I can't remember the subtitle of that movie.
Kong Skull Island. Yeah. So, just based off of this trailer alone, this is kind of what we've been building up to since they started with Godzilla. That was the first one. And I'm going to be honest, I have to give them a little bit of credit just for getting this far. Because when they announced that they were trying to do a MonsterVerse type of thing, I laughed, said that's a stupid idea. Not the jury's still out on whether or not it's a stupid idea, but I kind of laughed and was like, I don't see that going anywhere. It seemed like something that was kind of just a nebulous idea that wasn't going to actually come to fruition. So the fact that they've made it this far at least has intrigued me enough to be not to invest myself in the franchise, because it's not something that I'm supremely excited for, but it is enough to make me kind of look at it and be like, they could be building it into something. I don't know that it's ever going to be something that is amazing, massive cultural phenomenon or anything, but as a general universe, they're not doing a horrible job. I would say they're doing better than DC at this point. Because they announced it when Marvel was like, we're going to do our cinematic universe. They proved that it was successful. And then 9 studios, it felt like, were like, we're going to do that with all of our movies. And then it kind of fell off and no one really pulled through on it.
Remember the Dark Universe, which started with The Mummy with Tom Cruise and ended with The Mummy with Tom Cruise?
Yeah, exactly. It was at that time where once everyone was watching to see if Marvel was actually going to find success with the universe. And then as soon as they did, everyone's like, this is the new wave. This is how we do things now. It felt like there was a bit of a fad about it. And I'd say that that's still the case, but I really just didn't expect a MonsterVerse to be the next one to actually do something remotely successful. Because I'm not going to lie, DC's been trying to do it. And I would say I care more, as someone who likes DC and looks forward to it, their movies have been so bad that I would say this MonsterVerse is something I care more about at this point. I enjoy more. I'm more looking forward to Kong versus Godzilla than like Wonder Woman or the next Justice League iteration.
Yeah. I mean, the last Kong movie and the last Godzilla movie were like shockingly watchable.
That's such a good descriptor for it, because they were shockingly watchable.
Like that last Godzilla movie was like, I could not tell you one thing that happened plot wise in that movie. I could not tell you a character's name. I do not remember any actor that was in it aside from Millie Bobby Brown. But I actually remember some pretty unique visuals. I remember weirdly it had a really good color palette. Like there was a really beautiful like blue, like lightning lit scene towards the end. Like those things stuck out in my mind. And I remember thinking, like, when I went to see it, I knew it was going to be pretty stupid. And I was like, I just want to see Godzilla, like, just wreck some stuff. And then I got to see plenty of Godzilla wrecking stuff. And it was kind of the same thing with Kong. It was like they very quickly got them to the island and made sure to, like, show Kong. And they did a great job in that movie of, like, capturing the size of Kong. So it's like I think they sort of know what they're going for now. They're like, this is what people really want to see. And I think they're from the trailer, it looks like they're definitely doing that with this one.
Yeah. This trailer looks like they're really just leaning into the chaos and mayhem of gigantic monsters fighting each other. Yeah. I did like the way the trailer kind of leaned in on, I don't know. I'm not super into like Godzilla lore, but I did like the way they seem to be leaning into the mythical, these wars over like hundreds of years. Like, I like the idea. I don't know about the execution yet, but I like the idea of where they're leaning with the story. I do think they can execute big, dumb, and ridiculous and fun while also bringing a little more heart to it. So I would like to see that and hope that they can. I don't have a lot of hope for this movie, but as the, as in bringing like a lot of craft and true like heart to the franchise. But I would hope that if it continues to go on and does become like an actual sustainable universe, that they could improve in that aspect. Because I think that without that, it's going to be hard to bring it into an echelon of memorable movies. There'll be movies that you will watch. But if we're talking about making them like memorable movies that you just want to watch again or remember, like you said, like Independence Day is a classic film, but it is big, dumb, and ridiculous. Yeah. But if it didn't have that same heart, then you would not want to go back and watch it. So when it comes to the new trailer, I do like some of the idea of where it's going. And I am a sucker for just the spectacle, the scale, and the fact that they've really leaned into doing it and doing it really well is something that I like, because that's something that I really liked in Godzilla 2 and Kong Skull Island. I felt like Godzilla 2 really brought it home, mainly because Kong Skull Island, I have a bit of a soft spot for, because I really like and support Jordan Vogt-Roberts as a director. And I think some of the visual things he did with that movie were astounding. Some of the shots, like just the shot composition on Kong Skull Island, I would say that the movie is worth watching for the opening. I think it's for the first action sequence where Kong, it's like
where he's wrecking the
helicopters.
It's incredible.
Not only is the scene incredible, but some of the shot compositions with the sun and the positioning and the symbolism and everything was, it wasn't just like, oh, we shot like big, good CGI. It was like really, really well put together scenes. Yeah. And that movie really fell flat in the acting category as well as just the writing category. And I've even, Jordan Vogt-Roberts has actually acknowledged that as well, that, he didn't have the greatest script to work on. So I don't like blame him and like I said, that comes where I have like a little bit of a soft spot for him where I'm like, well, it's not his fault that the story sucked. Because frankly, the story was, I don't remember it. It was unmemorable. It was, I would say, kind of lifelessly acted.
Yeah, that's where the Godzilla movie fell flat the same. The second Godzilla movie fell flat the same way, where it was like it is really stunning visually, and it fulfills that like need to see a giant monster destroy things. But it does very much fall flat when it comes to the characters.
See, I would agree with that, but I feel like what Godzilla did better than Kong was Godzilla 2, just to be specific. What I feel like Godzilla 2 did better than Kong was they did more of the visuals and gave less time to. And I know that sounds like that's counterintuitive, but Kong kind of did give time to its characters and its story, and then it wasn't good. Versus Godzilla 2 was kind of like, yeah, there's nothing behind the curtain, so here's all this, spectacle. And it worked because while I would have enjoyed a movie with a little more substance to it, it kept me entertained. What I remember when I saw Godzilla 2, I was just like, came in kind of expecting to hate it. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, this is probably gonna suck, but we're just going to the movies because we want to go see a movie. And I ended up being like, that was really entertained. There were some beautiful shots. There was, like you said, really great color palettes. They did a really great job, not just with the shots, but like the composition of the scenes. I thought the action was engaging, and I'm actually not usually, I like spectacle. I'm not a big like giant robots fighting type of fan, but these movies kind of turned that on me because I don't enjoy the Transformers action particularly at all. And I did not enjoy the Pacific Rim action at all. So the fact that they won me over in the kind of spectacle, big giant monsters fighting arena was impressive to me.
Yeah, I remember specifically there was a set piece that was like in the snow in that movie. I remember so little about like the context of the plot in that movie, but I remember there was some big set piece set out in the snow in that movie.
What you're talking about.
And I remember it being like genuinely tense and thinking, I don't remember any of these characters' names and I don't care about them whatsoever. The fact that this scene in and of itself is has got me engaged and like actually, compelled to like know what happens next is almost like a bigger compliment with how completely lifeless the characters in that movie are.
Well, I also thought that when you say like lifeless, the characters didn't have anything to work with, but I did think that Millie Bobby Brown did a good job of engaging on nothing to engage with, on acting through, because most of her scenes are just her like being scared and tense. Yeah. It's her like running, like freaking out. And I mean, not that there's much to work with there, but I enjoyed her performance within those boundaries. It didn't have a lot to it, and I say that as someone who has, some criticisms of Millie Bobby Brown's performances in the past. So I thought she did a good job in this series. And I like how they're leaning into, because she's in the trailer for, I don't know how big of a character she'll play, but it seems like they're probably going to stick with her a little bit in the new movie. And I like how they're kind of leaning into giving her not a big girl role, but kind of pulling her out of the kiddie pool that she's been in since Stranger Things. And it looks like she's playing more of a mid-teens character. Like even just the way like her dress, the hair, the makeup, it looks like they're kind of trying to age her up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I like where they're going with it. I think that she fits that role pretty well for what it's worth.
Yeah, I almost feel like slightly hypocritical criticizing Godzilla 1 for trying to be sort of more than what you would expect from that type of movie.
Because that was not a monster. That was not a Rock'em Sock'em monster.
Yeah, movie. Not at all. And then I criticize the next two for not being that. But it's because neither of them have done it particularly well.
Yeah.
But with the first Godzilla movie, like it was made by Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One, and it had that same issue of like completely dead characters to me, and it had good actors. Like it had Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen was in it, and there was somebody else in it that was big, but it played the Jaws game, like the hide the shark game, where for a little while it was really cool only seeing like glimpses of Godzilla, but the movie's like over 2 hours long, and when it gives you nothing to care about in between, like Jaws hid the shark for 90% of the movie and gave you engaging characters and a really good story that built up to a great climax. Godzilla gave you dead characters, boring story, no Godzilla.
Yeah.
Then it was like you see this like one big scene with Godzilla, and then he like walks into the ocean, and it's like, I don't remember these characters' names. I don't remember, like, I don't care about this at all.
And then they turn around and it's literally the monster is literally, Godzilla is the main character of Godzilla 2.
In Godzilla 1, like you see like your first like glimpse of Godzilla like 40 minutes into the movie, and then it continues with these like, they did a good job of like building like
tension
and building like really showing how huge Godzilla was, kind of similar to how they did it in Kong, but way slower. And there were some really good set pieces from like a technical standpoint. It's just, it was so like boring to sit through all the rest of it. It was like they just didn't make it worth it by the end of it. Whereas if they had gone that route and had stronger characters and a stronger story and a better pace, then that approach could have worked, and it would have been something that I liked way more than the way the next two went. But it just didn't work out. And people complain so much about not getting to see Godzilla that the next two were like a total response to that.
Uh-huh.
It was almost like the Superman thing where people are like, no, nobody saw Superman fight in Superman Returns, and that's all he does in Man of Steel.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to the new movie, my only worry is that like it looks ridiculous, but the trailer I actually thought looked kind of cool. But there's a part of me that's like, okay, is that Kong swinging a battle axe that's glowing? You know, it's like, at what point is it too absurd? And what I really hope is that they continue to capture what they did with the action and spectacle in Godzilla 2 with the added spectacle of Kong, and it doesn't go too overboard. Like, I know this movie's probably going to be just mayhem the whole way through.
Right.
But I hope that it still maintains that, I guess, that level of it being good spectacle. I hope it doesn't turn into just throwaway, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't know. I think it kind of inherently will be, because like, how deep of a motivation can Kong have for anything that he's doing?
Yeah,
like, how deep of a motivation
really
can Godzilla have?
So it's why they're even fighting.
I don't know why they're fighting.
Because I thought, don't they like Godzilla by the end of 2? Doesn't he like save everyone?
I don't remember.
It's the whole Godzilla thing is really confusing.
But it's like, how much are you going to be able to care why they're fighting? And if they're not going to give you people on the ground that you care about, it's kind of going to be, well, how ridiculous can we get?
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's going to end up being the point of it.
Yeah. And I'm not going to prejudge it, because I do kind of expect that, but I'm going to go in with an open mind. However, it is really hard to not prejudge it when the director of Godzilla versus Kong, his last live action movie was Death Note.
Mm-hmm.
The Death Note one that came out for Netflix, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
2017. I think.
I
never saw it.
Okay, I say this as a rather large fan of the original Death Note anime. And without trying to go too hard on it for not being true to the original, trying to give it the creative freedom to actually do something different. The live action Death Note on Netflix was so truly horrible that it was funny. Like, so funny that you want to cry, because it's so sad that you have to laugh, because otherwise you might cry, because a genuinely great intellectual property is being desecrated, like absolutely doo-dooed on across the board for like 2 hours. So much so that I couldn't even finish the movie. Not only because I didn't like where the movie was going, but because it was so poorly made on every level, from the acting to the shots to just the general composition of a scene. Like, I felt like I was watching a YouTube movie. I felt like YouTube originals produced the film. Like, actually, that would probably be an insult. That would probably be an insult to YouTube originals. Like, so I'm then turning around and seeing this trailer for a movie that I actually think looks vaguely interesting and I'm willing to go see. And knowing that that's who's helming it it's like, I want to have faith in the franchise, but Hollywood blows my mind on how they choose directors sometimes. Because you will see these new properties that genuinely have potential, and they'll hand them away to directors that don't make any sense. Like,
yeah, well,
and I don't mean up and coming directors where you're like, oh, let's give them a chance, like Peter Jackson on Lord of the Rings. I mean, like, people who made movies that, like, Death Note was universally panned. Like, I'm roasting it over the fire right now, but it's not a controversial opinion to say that.
Yeah. Well, weirdly, like, they've gone with like horror directors for most of them. Like, not that Gareth
Edwards isn't a bad idea.
Gareth Edwards isn't necessarily a horror director, but I want to say the first movie that he did before Godzilla was more of a at least a thriller, or like a sci-fi thriller or horror movie. And then the guy, I can't remember his name, but the guy that did the last Godzilla movie had directed some horror movies prior, and now this guy did Death Note and a couple horror movies prior to that. It's kind of an odd approach, but I guess it works because
I like the horror approach, because that makes sense. It's just like I don't have anything negative. I mean, there were some major problems with all the movies prior, but I don't have like a massively negative reaction to like how well the movie was put together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try and hold out judgment on this next movie until I see it. But just going in knowing that someone could create something so truly horrible that I just have to hope that Netflix just absolutely destroyed Death Note in the production and that it wasn't his fault. Like that's how I have to see it, because that does happen where it's not always the director's fault that a movie comes out poorly.
Right. So many people are involved with it that like if Godzilla versus Kong is good, you know, you don't know how much of it can be attributed to that guy. And
especially
with Death Note being horrible,
franchise.
You don't know how much could contribute or how much he contributed to that. But also Godzilla versus Kong, I know for a fact has a far bigger budget than Death Note did. So on a technical level, it's probably going to look
on a technical
better.
level. It does already looks cool.
Even if he's not an amazing director, they're gonna get a cinematographer who knows what they're doing, and they're gonna get the people that. So from that standpoint,
it looks visually
will look
good
a whole lot more professional than Death Note did. But
yeah, I don't know. I'm just surprised that I have to tip my hat to the studio for actually bringing this whole MonsterVerse thing to fruition. I don't really know where they're going after it, but I know that isn't the plan supposed to be like a big universe? Mm-hmm. Like what is the next monster?
I don't know.
Like where are they? Like I feel like we've been going.
It's weird.
Kong Godzilla has been the not in game, but pretty much all we've known since the beginning. Like we knew they were going to do Kong and Godzilla, but I feel like there are some other monsters.
Do people care about the other monsters?
I don't know, and I don't think so. But what I'm interested to see is if they can make people. Because we already had Kong and Godzilla without a MonsterVerse. Everyone knows them. Everyone generally cares about them enough to, see a movie. However, after this movie, I'm not sure I want to see a Kong versus Godzilla 2. And I'm not really sure that I want to see a Godzilla 3 or a Kong 2. I like whatever way you can continue to use these monsters, but I need to go somewhere else. And honestly, we're getting so big and bombastic that the challenge that it will be to raise the bar after this, like after two of these massive iconic monsters just duking it out in cities and over the ocean, like where do you even go from there on spectacle? There are some places, but the budgets and the scale are just going to have to get so much bigger and crazier, or they're going to have to do a real 180 and go almost like not that it's like a great example, almost like an Iron Man 3 vibe where you like tone it down.
Right.
You bring it down a bit and take it, and with their track record on, to do a movie like that, to slow it down and take the focus off the massive fighting and the monsters, I think it'll be hard.
They'll probably just do like a team up movie.
Yeah, that's what.
Probably just do like Godzilla and Kong versus other monsters.
That's kind of how I'm expecting it to just keep going bigger, but I don't know how. I feel like you've got like one more movie in you. Yeah. After Godzilla versus Kong.
I'm not sure it'll make it another movie though, because I don't know how much of a success that the last two were. I'd imagine that like Godzilla is probably extremely successful overseas. Yeah, I mean it's where he originated, but I don't know how successful this one's going to be in terms of
especially
money, especially with the split.
Year.
Yes, especially with the split release. So I don't know if it'll make it another movie, and I'm not sure people are really going to be like wanting it to make it another movie. Like I think the people that were interested in this to start with are going to be happy
Feels like
to
this
see
is the end of the line.
This, but I think that this would be the climax to it all.
And there's not much left. Like there's not a what happens to Kong.
Yeah,
after
I don't think
movie?
at the end of this people are going to be like, well, what happens next, guys?
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I'm not super. This is not a franchise that I'm like super. I don't follow it super closely. It's kind of a throwaway franchise to me. So I'm kind of like not invested either way. I'll go see the movie. I will probably just be entertained. That's what I hope for at the most.
I set my bar really low and just will be surprised by it. That's what I did with the last one. I really didn't, like you said, I didn't expect the last one to be as entertaining as it was, but I just had my bar set really low. And
that was how I got into it too, because we had seen Kong Skull Island, and I was actually kind of excited for Kong Skull Island because I'd seen all the promo for it, and it was really cool looking. And while I did enjoy parts of the movie, I kind of came away a little empty from it. However, that bar stayed really low for Godzilla 2, and when I went in, I was like, that was really entertaining. So I don't know. We'll have to see. So I think that just about wraps up all of my thoughts on the Monsterverse. We will see how it goes and probably talk about the movie after it comes out and maybe do a little review on the podcast. But until then, we will see you guys next week in episode 19. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, leave a review on the podcast on Spotify, Apple. They help us out a ton. And otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next episode.